Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Vishnu Parivajakacarya Ashtadhara Shabdashi Srimad Bhagavatam HG Balarama Dasa Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai Jaya Vishnu Paramahamsa Parivajakacarya Ashtadhara Shabdashi Srimad Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Nama Acharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Sikaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivas Adi Gauda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopakupana Shama Kun Radha Kun Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Navadvip Dham Ki Jai Ganga Yamuna Mai Ki Jai Tulsi Maharani Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Samaveta Bhakti Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. Hare Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, entitled The Creative Impetus, Chapter 20, The Structure of the Universe, Text 45. That's what's on the board, right?
46 is what's supposed to be.
Really? And how does it start? Okay. I think that's the one that has the purport, so. All right, so I'll just chant myself 45 and read the English and chant the Sanskrit, read the English. Suryena hi vibhajante dishakam dayurmahi bida svargapavargo nadaka rasal kamsi cha sarvashaha. O king, the sun god and the sun planet divide all the directions of the universe. It is only because of the presence of the sun that we can understand what the sky, the higher planets, this world, and the lower planets are. It is also only because of the sun that we can understand which places are for material enjoyment, which are for liberation, which are hellish and subterranean. So text 46, everybody could please repeat. Deva, Tiryan, Manushyanam, Sadispa, Savirudam, Sarva, Jiva, Nikayanam, Surya, Atma, Drig, Ishvaraha, Devatiryan Manushyanam, Sadisripa Savirudam, Sarvajiva Nikayanam, Surya Atma Drigishvaraha, Devatiryan Manushyanam, Sadisripa Savirudam, Sarvajiva Nikayanam, Surya Atma Drigishvaraha, Devatiryan Manushyanam, Sadisripa Savirudam, Sarvajiva Nikayanam, Surya Atma Drigishvaraha,
Sarvajiva Nikayanam, Surya Atma Ishvaraha. To hear his voices out. Devatiryan Manushyanam, Devatiryan Manushyanam, Sarishripa Savirudam, Sarvajiva Nikayanam, Suryatma Vigishvaram, Suryatma Vigishvaraha. Devatiryan Manushyanam, Devatiryan Manushyanam, Sarishripa Savirudam, Sarishripa Savirudam, Sarvajiva Nikayanam, Sarvajiva Nikayanam, Suryatma Vigishvaraha,
Deva of the demigods, Tiryak, the lower animals, Manushyanam, and the human beings, Sadisripa, the insects and the serpents, Savirudam, and the plants and trees, Sarvajiva Nikayanam, of all groups of living entities, Surya, the sun god, Atma, the life and soul, Drik, of the eyes, Ishvaraha, the personality of Godhead. Translation and commentary by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. All living entities, including demigods, human beings, animals, birds, insects, reptiles, creepers, and trees, depend upon the heat and light given by the sun god from the sun planet. Furthermore, it is because of the sun's presence that all living entities can see, and therefore he is called Drig Ishvara, the personality of Godhead presiding over sight. Purport. In this regard, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, Surya Atma Atma Tve no Pasya Ha. The actual life and soul of all living entities within this universe is the sun. He is therefore upasya, worshipable. We worship the sun god by chanting the Gayatri mantra, Om Bhurbhuva Swat Tat Savato Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi. Surya is the life and soul of this universe, and there are innumerable universes for which a sun god is the life and soul. Just as the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the life and soul of the entire creation, we have information that Vairaja, Hiranyagarbha, entered the great dull material globe called the sun. This indicates that the theory held by so-called scientists that no one lives there is wrong. Bhagavad Gita also says that Krishna first instructed Bhagavad Gita to the sun god. Imam Vishvasyate Yogam Pruktavan Aham Avyam. Therefore the sun is not vacant. It is inhabited by living entities, and the predominating deity is Vairaja or Vivishvana. The difference between the sun and earth is that the sun is a fiery planet, but everyone there has a suitable body and can live there without difficulty. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 5th canto, 20th chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled Studying the Structure of the Universe. Om Ganati Vedandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshulamalitamena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Kam Kaditavacha Lampangam Langai Tekirim Yat Kripat Maham Vande Shri Gurun Dinitarinam Vancha Kapadribisha Kripa Sindhu Bevacha Patitanam Pavanibhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhaktivinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Translation again. All living entities, including demigods, human beings, animals, birds, insects, reptiles, creepers, and trees, depend upon the heat and light given by the sun god from the sun planet. Furthermore, it is because of the sun's presence that all living entities can see, and therefore he is called Drig Ishvara, the personality of Godhead presiding over sight. Do you think you could give me Bhagavad Gita, Dimitri, please? So the living entities, all living entities, as this verse is saying, including the demigods, human beings, animals, birds, insects, reptiles, creepers, and trees. So you could say all moving. Thank you. All moving and non-moving. Everything moving and non-moving. They're all dependent on the sun. And so we could see how it's a very humble position to be in. Although there's so many reasons to be humble, of course you could say with animals and trees, it's a very humble animal or humble tree. I guess people may say that glorified dogs or something as being humble, loyal, whatever. But generally, we think of these qualities in relationship to humans, but pride and humility. But there's so many reasons why a human being should be humble. And one of those reasons is that the living entity, specifically the human being, is so dependent on what Krishna is giving. For example, the sun. Without the sun, there's no life. Right? Growing of vegetables, fruits, and even for the what is it? Carnivorous. What is it?
Carnivorous.
Yeah, carnivorous humans. right? They also are dependent on the sun, and that, right, what are the animals that they're eating, living off of? That which is produced by the sun. So everyone is dependent on the sun for all of these. It's actually inconceivably amazing how it all works, right? Growing of vegetables, and that's quite mystical, right? An avocado tree. You plant an avocado seed, right, in the ground, and then some nice sunlight, water, care, and attention, and then eventually you'll have an avocado tree, which is very important for brahmacharya life, but I was saying very important for those who are situated in Mexico. And nothing. I mean, depending on where you're born, you get a certain conditioned senses, which include a tongue, and you're just naturally inspired by things. Like, for example, we were at the Tijuana house gathering, some time ago, and after the Sunday feast, the devotees, they're all kind of milling around, talking this and that, and then they said, and then some devotee, he brought out, what was it, like a bag of chilies, a bag of limes. I don't know if there's avocados there, but there's things like that, that are important down there. Chilies, lime, cilantro. And he was distributing it to the people. Means it was kind of like a little, what do you call, farmer's market there. Whereas if you go to other countries or other places, they may not be so into that chili and lime and avocado. Like, I remember when this devotee, Sagar Maharaj, Bhakti Rasayana Sagar Swami, the Indrajimna Swami disciple from Russia. So when Maharaj gave him sannyas, I was there in Mayapur, and I attended the ceremony. Many devotees attended the ceremony, but I happened to be there also. But Maharaj was saying, Indrajimna Swami was talking about Sagar Maharaj, and he's saying, yeah, Sagar Maharaj is a very simple person. Very simple. He's satisfied very easily. He said, just give him some service, give him some preaching opportunities, give him some potatoes. Maharaj really likes potatoes, but a lot of Russians like potatoes, right? Anyways. So, but it's amazing. It's amazing that just by a simple process of planting a seed in soil, adding some water, sunlight, such an amazing thing. And it's all over the world, providing for how many people now?
Close to 7 billion.
7. Close? Yeah.
Is it 8 now?
Oh, okay.
China.
Billion. So it's amazing, and as stated by Srila Prabhupada a number of times, and has been brought up a number of times recently here in these classes, that which is man-made cannot compare at all, not even close, to that which is God-made. There's no comparison. Like it was brought up that Krishna, through the potency, right, of the sun and water and human beings watering plants and flowers, can produce such beautiful flowers, for example, which we have to figure out where that is coming from. But I've heard, I don't know, read somewhere, heard somewhere, we could double check it, but anyone remember this, that the flowers represent Krishna's smile? Bhagavatam, okay. Yeah. Represent Krishna's smile. So it's nice, right? Krishna's smile. So by this watering process and sunlight, such beautiful flowers are produced. Of course, there's different types of flowers and different quality of flowers, right? There's scentless flowers and there's flowers with a lot of beautiful, right, strong aroma. Luckily, we have some of those here growing on the property to offer to Krishna and the devotees. But a man, let him do that. Try to do that. Cannot do that. Right? Not even close. They produce some plastic flowers, right? Oh, very nice. You arrive in Hawaii and they offer you some nice plastic garland, right? Of flowers. Of course, if you go there and devotees receive you, they're not going to give you plastic. Welcome, Prabhu. You're like, do you really want me here? Give me a plastic garland. I mean, not that, but giving me a hint to get back on the plane, you know. But because devotees, you know, they know how to make garlands, and it's obviously a common thing. But when you arrive in Hawaii, and then for a lot of people, they may get a plastic garland, right? Flowers, or some type of paper, or something like that. So that is what man can produce. Something that may look similar, maybe. Or sometimes you have this nice, these very talented artists. We have some of those in ISKCON. We need some more. But we have these talented artists who paint beautiful pictures of Krishna, which Srila Prabhupada really appreciated. And he said these are windows into the spiritual world. These beautiful pictures that are in Srila Prabhupada's books. And this is quite unique, this is unique what Srila Prabhupada did, putting pictures of Krishna's pastimes in books. As far as we know, I'm not sure if that's ever been done. Srila Prabhupada's idea. So a human being or a devotee or an artist may paint such beautiful paintings, for example, of a flower, but where's the scent? It's not there, right? Where's the ability for that flower to produce more flowers, right? Not there. So we could see that the living entity has some power to create something, but not the power, the inconceivable power of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, which is just absolutely amazing. And as Srila Prabhupada would say that if just for a painting, right, takes so much time and energy. I mean, anyone who is an artist means in the terms of a painter or a musician or a writer or anything like, or a cook, right? I mean, it takes a lot of time. Try writing a book, try painting a painting, right? Try learning an instrument. It takes a lot of time and energy, which, by the way, we need some more devotees to learn Mridanga for those who are inclined. But it takes a lot of time and energy. So Srila Prabhupada would say that for a painting or any work of art, there's someone behind it. It didn't just appear out of nowhere. There's an artist behind the painting. So similarly, Srila Prabhupada would say there is a supreme artist, and that is Krishna, right? He's the best. Flowers, and that. I mean, all the different vegetables, all the different types of fruit, all the different types of flowers, different trees. Amazing. So, aside from the sun giving the ability to produce all of these different things that sustain living entities, the sun also, that's how we're able to see. I mean, you cut the electricity, cut off the sun, right? I mean, we're in darkness. Of course, you have the moon also helps. It says that therefore the path of devotional service, they sometimes refer to it as a moon, because when someone's in a dark forest, and which could be a very frightening situation. If the moon rises, and it's full moon, then it will illuminate the path, how to get out. So you cut all these things off, and we're just in complete darkness. And that's the nature of the material. It's just darkness. So the sun gives us the ability to see. Gives us the ability to see. Now, that's, you could say, materially speaking. But there's seeing materially, means in a mundane way, in the bodily conception of life. And then there is seen through the reawakening of spiritual vision, which is quite different. Mamaya vangsho jiva loke jiva buddha sanatana. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that all of these living entities, they're my part and parcels. They're struggling with the senses, which include the mind. Now, for a materialist, they don't see that. It's just like these people are there, and living entities are there, and therefore my enjoyment, subtle, gross, exploitation, right? For example, like you have these type of slave labor things going on, all types of stuff going on like that. Happens it's a big thing happened in San Diego also. A lot of the times people they're pretty much bought out on, means money, especially in expensive places to live. There's some type of exploiter who says, I'll give you money, but you have to, do this, do that, do so many things. Pretty much more or less like a paid slave. So the exploitation. So that's how materialist sees. Of course, there's different degrees of that. There's severe degrees and there's lesser degrees, but exploitation. Or to not see them in relation to Krishna. That's a problem, to not see them in relation to Krishna. Because a materialist doesn't see anything in relation to Krishna. Sees everything in relation to themselves, everything in relation to their sense gratification. So a person who is not seeing that my vangsho jiva loke, these are all my part and parcels, Krishna is saying, he's not seeing the relationship with Krishna, then this is where all of the problems stem from. I hate you. I want to hurt you. I want to kill you. I want to this or that. Your tribe is bad. My tribe is good. Let's fight. Right? Therefore, there are these wars between countries. This is all just a result of godlessness, not seeing things in relation to Krishna. And as Srila Prabhupada said that until we develop the vision of the spiritual vision, because one thing, okay, we all have eyeballs. Well, so what? People have eyeballs, so what? That doesn't mean that they're able to see. To see means to understand something. Like, right, that saying, I see. Okay, I see now. Thank you. I'm seeing it. Makes sense to me. I see. So to see really means to understand and to utilize the eyes for which they're created for. not for other purposes. Like Srila Prabhupada mentions the Bhagavatam says, those eyes that do not see the forms of the Supreme Personality of Godhead are like the eyes on a peacock, the plume of a peacock feather. What's the use of those? They look like eyes, but they're not actually eyes. The trees are the legs that do not go to see the temples of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Those trees are considered to be like tree trunks. I think he says the tongue that do not chant and hear about do not chant the glorification of Krishna, do not use it for the glorification, it would be like the tongue of a frog. So on and on like that. So in other words, the body, the human body specifically, is created for a purpose, and that is to engage it in the service of Krishna. So we should see things in relation to in relation to Krishna service. That's how we should see things, not in relation to exploitation. So to develop, to reawaken our spiritual vision, could be a slow process, but it is a process that is absolutely necessary. And we need to meditate on this point, because there's form and then there's substance, right? There's form and substance. They're two different things. So just like somebody has eyeballs, but if they're not engaging with Krishna service, they're useless. Those eyeballs are useless. They're actually worse than useless, dragging them down. So, in other words, a person has to have that substance, not just the form. Like Srila Prabhupada would say, show bottle spiritualist. What does that mean? That means that, like he would explain, in the drugstore, medicine store, they have these bottles, right? And it'd have some type of label of medicine there, but they'd just be full of water. No substance, no real substance. So to be a devotee of Krishna means to have substance, not just form, right? Any fool and rascal could put on tilak and neck beads and a Brahman thread. Yeah, sometimes they do. You have sahajiyas, you got all these Devan Vaishnava groups. But of course, tilak and neck beads is important. But what needs to follow the tilak and neck beads is the substance. Means what's going on inside, what's going on upstairs. Means what's going on upstairs, what's going on in the mind. So the mind also has to be engaged in Krishna consciousness. Thinking about Krishna, name, form, qualities, activity, right? Nama, name, guna, qualities, rupa, form, lila, pastimes. Also thinking about Srila Prabhupada's, right, pastimes. And so it's going on in the mind. Now, with the body, we're engaged in it in so many ways. Anyways, there's so many ways to engage in Krishna service, which everyone knows here. So, but that internal aspect has to be there as well, means being Krishna conscious. So substance and form. So it's very important. All right. So just a few last things. So a lot of these things that are being mentioned in this purport, for example, the sun god in different aspects, the deity of the sun, and so on. It is beyond personality's sense perception, beyond people's sense perception. We cannot see, right? But as being brought up in many of these talks is there's so many things we cannot see, but we accept them on the basis of authority. Just like a lot of people, the investigations of the scientists, they cannot see, right, or they do not investigate themselves, but they have a faith. They have in the authority of the scientists, right? So there's a lot of things that we have of faith in, or we accept. We have our authorities. And our main authority is the Srimad Bhagavatam, and means the book Bhagavat and the person Bhagavat. And we should, and aside from that, we're followers of Srila Prabhupada. We're Prabhupada Anugas. We are followers of Srila Prabhupada. So, in relation to our investigation into the absolute truth, very good. We have to investigate. We have to strive in investigating the absolute truth. But in terms of us knowing what's true, what's not true, etc., means having answers, or getting our answers, or getting our questions answered. The main source books are Srila Prabhupada's books. Now, there is some scope of investigating other acharyas' works, but we have to see that in relation to Srila Prabhupada's work. And of course, we have to, if we are to venture on such investigations of other acharyas' works, trying to find out certain things, or whatever, more, there's so much about Krishna consciousness, unlimited, right? We should do that with the blessings of our spiritual master, not whimsically. What was it? Oh yeah, okay, this is Srila Prabhupada's disciple, Pradyumna. Prabhupada would call him Panditji. And Prabhupada wasn't being sarcastic. He was learning Sanskrit and everything, and intelligent. But we have to be careful with that intelligence, because people sometimes be like over-intelligent. Like we have some fellow, he's probably not listening, he's probably listening to something else, but we have some fellow who's been coming around here lately, and we would say he's over-intelligent. Means doubting or heavily questioning, and you could say Srila Prabhupada's translations of the Sanskrit. But anyways, we don't want to get into that right now. But over-intelligent could be a problem. So, but Pradyumna was a Panditji. So one time Pradyumna was walking into a room, and he had a book under his arm. And whether it was Govinda Lilamrita by Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, which is very esoteric and difficult to understand without proper purification, Radha Krishna's pastimes, or whether it was another book by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, whatever the case is, he had a particular book under his arm. And then Srila Prabhupada said, "What is that book?" And then Pradyumna said what the book was. And then Prabhupada said, "If you read that book, you'll fall down." You cannot read that book. And Srila Prabhupada was quite adamant on it. He was driving the point to him. So it's not that, okay, hey, great, I'm a Vaishnava. There's so much out there. All right, I have a full license. Let me go for it. But we do things under the order of our spiritual master, the blessings of our spiritual master. I mean, even when traditionally speaking, when someone wanted to have a child, they say, Guru Maharaj, I'm thinking about having a child, can I have a child? And that's, people are like, have a child, that's my choice, like, what do I have to ask another human being for, right? But the culture of Krishna consciousness, the actual culture of Krishna, is actually to ask. I'm thinking about doing this, I'm thinking about doing that, I'm thinking about going here, I'm thinking about doing this. You ask, not just do. Like one devotee was telling me recently the experience of being a guru, like a Diksha guru, and because a lot of the times it's like they're kind of after the gurus, right? So many faults, this and that. But disciples, it's Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, actually, we're doing the ISKCON disciple course now, and there's some statement by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. It's very easy to find a bona fide spiritual master, but not so easy to find a sincere disciple. Which a lot of times people think it's like the other way. It's so difficult to find a spiritual master, and but I'm sincere, whatever. So for example, there's a Diksha guru and a disciple, and the disciple says, "Guru Maharaj, what should I do? And please tell me, and I'm dependent on your mercy." Then the guru, he sends this long email back, detailed, spend a lot of time and energy, thinking about it. And then he sends it back to the disciple, and the disciple says, "Yeah, in the meantime, when I was reading your email, I just had a different idea, and I did this, and I went here, and that." In other words, he just didn't accept his advice at all. So, there's we have to do things under the order of the spiritual master. Okay, does anybody have any questions or comments? All right, Bhajanaran Swami. I meant to end 10 minutes ago, but because question and comment. No, but just question and comment period sometimes.
All right. Gee, this is loud. I was thinking of a short question and a long question. The short question, just to churn it, because it's a nice analogy. You said the tongue, not used in Krishna's service, is like a croaking of a frog. Why? Why a frog?
Okay. So, frogs, right? I don't know.
You can imitate a frog for us?
No, I'm not so good at that.
Prabhu does a great imitation.
Not ribbit. Ribbit's not really good. It's like croak. Anyways, so croaking of a frog, however they croak,
Ribbit's not bad, but go ahead.
Ribbit. So, what happens is that by the croaking of the frog, right, that sound, sometimes, somehow or other, I guess snakes have some type of hearing ability. I mean, they don't exactly have ears, I guess.
They got holes.
They got ear holes?
Yeah.
Okay. They got some type of holes. I guess they don't look like normal ears, right? But they have some hearing ability. So they hear these frogs croaking. And then they make their way over, right? Slither over. Sliver over, and then the frog keeps on croaking, and then, okay, great, here's my dinner. And then he just gives the frog. So, Srila Prabhupada would say that the karmis, the Mayavadis, different groups of people who are not speaking Krishna Katha, they're speaking other things, says that they're just attracting the snake of death, come and devour them. Whereas the devotees are engaging their tongue and glorifying Krishna and the process and Krishna consciousness, and therefore they're not attracting the snake of death. The snake of death. Okay, the snake. You say death comes, but the result is different. One result is that a person remains in the cycle of birth and death, going up or down, and the other result is the person goes to the spiritual world. So, anyways, that's a bit.
Thank you very much. My other question, you mentioned the standard analogy that we use, or cause and effect. Design means designer. And Prabhupada uses it, philosopher since time immemorial. It's a good argument. I had a guy tell me yesterday, and I'm just wondering what your response would be. And Javita, you can weigh in on this one too. I wonder what the response would be. A man said to me, it's just evolution from our Neanderthal caveman days. The world is random chaos. And like they say, trying to drink water through a fire hose. There's so much you can't digest anything. So our senses are picking up so much stimulus and information that the way we survived, if I'm distracted if I'm tuned into everything, my senses are, little Cro-Magnon man is out there with his spear, and he can't, and that, he's devoured by a saber-toothed tiger or whatever, so to survive, we've learned to filter information into patterns. It's a survival tool developed. There's no patterns, there's no design. It's just the way we process information. We put it into packages and we tune everything out. Just like if you're talking on your phone, you can zip right past your exit, So we focus information as a survival tool. What's the most important thing happening here? Everything else fades out. And we see design so we can function in this world. But there's actually no design. It's just the genetic, evolutionary tool for survival. There's no patterns. There's no order. It's just the way we're processing the information. What would you say to that?
I would say...
You're overly intelligent.
Jump over. I would say that a lot of these ideas of creation and purpose or non-purpose, right? It's up to the individual and all these different types of ideas. How long do people sit around and talk about this? I guess some people do a lot, but I think most people do not sit around and talk about this for a long time. And that the philosophy of Krishna consciousness, okay, we talk about creation, we talk about purpose, we talk about these things, right? But the philosophy or the theory or the philosophy, it's very comprehensive. It's not just talking about creation, and it's talking about so many things. And aside from that, it could be put into practice it could be actually practiced within our life. A lot of these different ideas, it's like, okay, you're saying it's just survival and, just figure. All right, well, if you just want to spend your whole life fighting like a cat and dog to survive and just trying to scrape your way up to the top and whatever that top means, I don't know, the manager of McDonald's or whatever, then that's your problem. I actually think that's a problem. In the sense that who just wants to survive, like an animal? Okay, some people do, but I filled my belly. I had a little sex life. I filled my belly. I fended off some enemies. Just in survival mode, but there's a lot more than just survival mode. That's our presentation. There's a lot more than just survival mode. There is the ecstasy of Krishna consciousness. There's the bliss of Krishna consciousness, which goes far beyond survival mode. And in terms of it's all random and there's no design and all these things. How is there no design? Wherever you look, there's design. Like the sun is at a very specific location. If it just goes a little closer, we're all, ashes, right? Or the bodies, right? Moving, non-moving. Or if it just goes a little farther, right? We're in trouble also, right? Freezing. So that's there. You have the waves. The waves, they come in and they go back out. They come in, they go. Now, what happens if there's no rhyme or reason? There's just the way it just, the tsunami, right? There was that one case, I don't know, where was that? Where there was a tsunami and an earthquake and a fire. Whoa.
And a nuclear reactor caught on fire.
Yeah.
It was Japan.
Japan or...
Maybe somewhere else too?
Yeah, there's so many disasters happening all over, right? But, of course, these things happen, but they're not happening all the time. We're everybody's happily, right, or unhappily disturbed, walking the boardwalk and hanging out, skating around, trying to enjoy themselves, right? But nobody's worried, oh, is this... Are the waves going to devour me right now? So you have the waves, you have the sun, you have so many things going on like that with the body. I mean, it's it is a complicated machine. So to say there's no design, that just sounds, illogical. So anyways, there's so many things to say about that, but that's something.
Thank you.
Okay, Mogalila, you could ask.
Well, I had something in relation to that question.
Like you have a bag of chemicals, right? Probably would say chemicals. Okay, you're just chemicals. There's no soul, right? Or no ghost to the machine. Then how do you explain all of this? Of course, people say, oh, brain funk, this and that. But if you're just, like Srila Prabhu would say, nobody cries, oh, I spilled the bottle of chemicals, right? If somebody's parents die.
No funeral.
Yeah, there's no funeral. Somebody's parents die, somebody's wife dies, people cry, people lament. It destroys people's lives. It means their internal world. There's so many things that just don't add up when you actually put it into practice or you try to follow yes, yeah, sorry.
So yeah, I was thinking that somebody could maybe say that, people say about astrology, oh, you just look up at the sky and all the stars are randomly placed, but then you just happen to see some patterns. So I could see, somebody saying that about something like astrology. But I mean, if you just look around, one thing is like you mentioned, to look at the systems that are in place in the world, in the universe, and the laws, and then like Prabhupada says, that implies a lawmaker.
Yeah.
So that's not necessarily a pattern we're observing. That's something.
Reality.
Yeah, that's just reality. It's something tangible, and then also. Also, just mathematically speaking, when what's his name?
Radhesham.
Yeah, when Radhesham Prabhu was here, he in his presentation he talked about the Fibonacci spiral. I mean, that's something that just that's you can calculate mathematically. It's present in the shape of our galaxy, and it's also present in something super extremely tiny.
Can I give a response to that? Or you want to go first, Babu?
Go.
Well, the reason there's that pattern is because that's just entropy and evolution. In other words, if you just shake things enough times, they're going to fall into place. So, because there's physics, I don't say laws of physics because then you get the lawmaker, but because there's physics, if you put a bunch of coins in a coin thing and you shake it, well, if you have one of those coins, you put all the coins in, you shake it. Well, just by the design, dare I say, but just by the arrangement of things, the influence of physics, the quarters are going to fall here, the nickels are going to fall here, the dimes are going to fall here. So you see a recurring pattern. You see that, I forgot the name of this thing, but you see it the spiral, where do you see it everywhere? That's just because all the laws of physics applied in the same way. Well, the quarters wind up here, the nickels wind up, the dimes line up. So that's just, you see that pattern repeatedly. If I have, they have those things that smooth rocks, it's a long story.
But you can throw it in a big machine and it will just tumble everything. And eventually all the rocks become smooth just by running into each other and whatever the mechanism is.
Just like
So
Daoshun.
similarly, if you just run matter, it will ultimately create patterns. Doesn't mean someone designed it. It just means if everything keeps banging against the same place, they're all going to have a dent in the same place. And you look at that dent and say, aha, someone designed those dents. No, it just flowed through material nature, and that's the way it just works out. I'm not saying it's a good argument. I'm saying that I've heard it before. And, you know, if you don't think deeply, you know, so what would your response to that, Panditji?
Well, I guess if you give the analogy of a rock tumbler, somebody made.
Best I could come up with.
Yeah, somebody made.
And a coin sort.
Yeah, somebody made the rock tumbler, and somebody shook the coins. So,
And also it's,
They're into in the pipe answers.
yeah,
They're not into the causality. They
Yeah.
just look at the in the effect and stay within that little world.
yeah.
also coins and rocks. I mean, you're talking about coins and rocks versus everything else. It's quite, you know.
A little simplistic.
Where they say, give me a, what do you call it? Where they say, give me a free miracle, we'll explain the rest.
One free miracle.
Yeah, one free miracle, we'll explain the rest, right?
Takes the whole mint to make the coins.
What's that?
Takes the whole mint to make the coins.
A whole mint?
You know, the coin mint.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Wow, looks like I'm defeated by the Vaishnavas.
Well, thank you, obeisances. So, sometimes if we try just to think about creation, we may get into trouble. Because creation is just part of the whole thing. There is creation, actually God, generating, operating, destroying. So operating, if we just, okay, we don't go into the debate of creation, okay, just the coins fill in place nicely. Who operates? And who destroys?
There's no loss of faith.
And the operation is something I think Prabhu was going
Why are you
into.
assuming who?
Hmm?
Why are you assuming that there has to be someone shaking? Just the forces of nature, things just fall into channels, and that's the way it happens. There isn't any intelligence behind it.
Oh, but we're not talking about a timeline. Because what you're saying is beginning and result is linked to a timeline. When we talk about operation, we're talking about something that's timeless. So time is tricky there. And also is linked to destroying.
I'll
Huh?
let you carry on because of the time, but I got some thoughts about it. Go ahead.
So that's why my suggestion is sometimes when these people, because I was as crazy as that. I was studying science, I was atheist, all that. But then you come to the point of generating, operating is something that requires
Yeah.
definite effort in
Yeah.
certain direction
Yeah.
and handling of time.
Sustained, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it's something that's not done by chance.
Yeah.
Operating.
You
Maybe
need-
creation could be by chance, we could say,
You give it in.
but operating is
Yeah,
the
you need,
point.
you need someone to press the button.
And not only press the button, but any kind of machine that's running,
Yeah,
it's always going off kilter. You got to calibrate it. You got to fix the screw. You
Yeah.
got to slow it down. You got to speed it up. That's his point. That's a good one.
Yeah, because operating is harder than creation.
Yeah, exactly.
Because even creation is done in the mode of passion. You know, destroying means darkness, but goodness is more difficult.
Yeah.
Operating, so Vishnu is doing that.
yeah,
So that business, I wouldn't say anyone can do that.
yeah. Thank you. Yes, you got God made, or the laws, right? You say, man, we cannot create laws, right? Like, for example, if we were to say, yeah, we want to come up with a law, and the laws we want to make. If I was to say, yeah, I wouldn't say this, but we want to make magical mushrooms legal, and now it's a law, right? So there's laws, and they're made from higher Krishna, right? Anyways, Tyler, you had something?
We have time. It's a very basic question.
Okay, one last, Tyler.
From the purport, it's about the quote from Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. He's talking about the sun.
Yes.
So he says the actual life and soul of all living entities within this universe is the sun. So the sun's the actual life and soul of all living entities. So it just made me think that, okay, the sun, if you stare into it, you become blinded, right? If you don't protect yourself from the sun, you get sunburned at best, skin cancer at worst. And you alluded to the point that eventually all stars, which are suns, they become bigger as they decay, and they swallow up all the planets that are in the solar system. So the sun will kill everyone eventually before it annihilates itself. So what do we say that? It's the life and soul of all living entities, but it's pretty dangerous. It'll get you in a heartbeat if you don't protect yourself from it, and it'll eventually kill you.
Yeah.
Purport is there. Go ahead.
Well,
I didn't hear a purport. I didn't hear a question.
Well, that's how it is with all powerful entities or all powerful things. They could, by dealing with them properly, we could benefit, we could sustain our lives, and by dealing with them wrongly, we could actually destroy ourselves, destroy our lives. So that's how it is with all powerful personalities. Like in the fourth canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam between Daksha and Shiva, there's that whole wonderful pastime there. Quite amazing, actually. Shiva's followers going after Daksha. That'd make a good film, right? But it says there that the dust of the feet of a devotee, that dust can, by serving that dust, one can get great benefit. He said, but that same dust can actually destroy a person.
What, by offenses?
By offenses, yeah, by Vaishnava aparad. And Shiva was the example. Daksha offended Shiva. So, but that's how it is with all, where you get too close to the sun, that's how it is with all great things and great personalities. So, therefore we have to be careful, like a razor's edge. So.
Also, I wanted to throw in there that your question included two premises which at least Vedic literature wouldn't accept. One being that all the stars are suns, because like yesterday's verse was saying that there's only one sun in a universe. So that's like, we're taught, or the modern way of understanding is that all these stars are suns. But the Vedic opinion, or at least the opinion of the Bhagavatam, that was described yesterday also, is that these stars aren't suns. But then the other thing is that part of your question included the premise that every sun comes to a point where it explodes and destroys all the planets surrounding it. But that's also not the conception of the Bhagavatam. So it may, considering that, maybe your question would be somewhat different, but still.
Inflating our sun with all the other suns.
Of course, there's many universes, so there are many suns.
Yeah.
So our sun might have a different course of life than what we're considering to be suns in the other.
Well, at least the universal destruction isn't like an action of the sun god, as far as I understand it.
It's from Lord
Yeah.
Shiva.
Yeah. But that's kind of like that's kind of what you'd learn in astronomy class or here. But it's different from the
All right. Thank you very much. So we'll have to end here. And for those on Zoom, I apologize. But we have tomorrow, chapter 21, more about, the movements of the sun. So stay tuned. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.